This is Thursday night. We're over halfway there. Only tomorrow night. Tomorrow night is exciting as well. There'll be a handout. You don't want to miss it. Tell your friends to come be here. It's going to be a really good one. As well as Sabbath morning will be good too. So tonight is World Nutrition Guidelines. That's right. That's what it is. It's right on the screen. I thought maybe that was the overall thing. It confused me for a minute. So yeah, we're going to enjoy this tonight. Welcome to those that are online. I know there's many people, they realize that we're online, and so they just go home in their nice fireside and watch it on Zoom. But if you're able to come in. We like to have you here. If Jesus came here, I'm sure you'd come in person and not just watch it online. But we're glad you're watching anyway, and we're going to begin with prayer. Let's just bow our heads. Jesus, thank you for all the information that we have in these days. A couple hundred years ago, all the research wasn't done. Although we had Bible guidelines, some people questioned it and weren't sure if it was correct or not. And now we have a lot of confirmation from many, many studies have been done to show that you knew what you were saying all along. I pray that you'll give us minds to understand, hearts to believe, and a will and desire to follow what we learned tonight. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
I've tried doing my health education a little different way. I used to do it at Loma Linda. I taught it there for years. But when I left Loma Linda, because I couldn't find an apartment, I moved up to Doug Batchelor's church in Sacramento. And anyway, I broke my hip, so I had to have an operation. Some people took me in to their house, and I was the oldest member in that Doug Batchelor's church. It was very interesting. And a lady who was a chef did a lot of cooking schools on TV, invited me to join her program. I had over 660,000 people looking at it, more than she'd had anybody else do. She was quite excited about it. But I've made these things, I've made 6 or 7 of them, on different subjects. This one's on World Nutrition Guidelines, which we're going to talk about tonight. Nobody has these good vegetarian World Nutrition Guidelines out, so I've done one. I've made others. I made one on what is a medical evangelist. I graduated from the College of Medical Evangelists. What is a medical evangelist? He's 100% minister and 100% doctor, physical doctor. So he's both. They were supposed to be always on the same campus working together. And the ministers were supposed to take a year or two of medicine along the way. Because when they got to the mission field, they'd have to know how to suture up cuts and things like this. And they were supposed to learn that at this medical school. Okay? Now, our Adventists seem to argue on theology quite a bit, on particular subjects. I took all the major subjects they argue about, put them in one thing, called it Love for the Church. Nobody could tell from the title what it was about. Love for the Church. So what did I put in there? Well, let me give you the things I put in that one. Perfection. Elder Frazee, I don't know if you've heard of him, started the self-supporting work in the South. And I said to him one day, I said, you know, when I get to heaven, I'm going to become more perfect. Oh, no, brother, no. You got to be perfect to get there. A different concept, see? You had 2 different views. I didn't have the references right then, but I have them now. And you'll get them tomorrow night. Perfection doesn't mean sinless. We'll get to that point. Another thing I had discussed, is it possible to live up to the law? Satan says it isn't. Jesus says it is. But Jesus is the only one we can point to who did it. Did Jesus come in the human state that Adam had before he sinned, or in the human state that Adam had after he sinned? Have you heard of the Graham Maxwell brothers? Both good Bible students, one from of Andrews and one was head of religion department at Loma Linda University. And I had my friends say, don't go listen to Graham Maxwell. He's teaching heresy. He said Jesus came in the human state like Adam was before he sinned. And his brother says after he sinned. Sister White says after he sinned. You know, hereditary breakdown for all thousands of years, yes. But he didn't come with any sinful nature. That's the difference. And then another one. Will there be a last generation that lives up to a higher standard religiously? The 144,000. They're the only ones that can sing the song of Moses and the Lamb, because they've been through a special experience. Now, we think Abraham's going to be saved, but Sister White says Abraham won't be able to sing that song because he hasn't been through those experiences. He is not part of the 144,000. And yet a very good religious friend of mine, you see him quite a bit on 3AB, and he's living at North Fork right now. But he wrote a thesis on the fact that all people who are saved are in the 144,000. It's not true, because Abraham would have been there, and he's not. Okay? And was Jesus' atonement on the cross the completed atonement? It was a complete atonement, but the atonement wasn't completed. Now, Rod Thompson, who came out from Michigan and joined Doug Batchelor and helped to start a new church up in that area, and he wrote a book on this subject, The 7 Stages of Atonement. When Adam and Eve sinned, Jesus came down and talked to them, explained the plan of salvation, and the whole thing about the sanctuary system, and told Adam to slay the lamb, you know, all that. He came and explained the whole situation. That was the first stage. Second stage, Jesus came to this earth. Okay? Third stage, he went to the holy place. Fourth stage, went to the most holy place. Fifth stage, he's coming the second time. What's the next stage? Millennium. Next stage, comes the third time, new earth. But it's quite interesting. Many non-Adventists have never heard of these other stages. All they think about is the cross. And there are all these other stages of atonement. Anyway, I've had a lot of fun giving some of these out that had all those in. And the one Korean minister, who's the administrative pastor of Loma Linda Church, when he saw it, he knew what it meant right away. It's what all the Adventists argue about all the time. And if we stick to the spirit of prophecy, I think we're pretty safe. Now, what others did I do? I did one on pediatrics to talk about calcium. And I quote all they say about calcium to show that we really don't know how much calcium we should have. We don't know. Now let's go with this one, World Nutrition Guidelines. Is it on? There it is. And now you can't read it from where you are, but those two top lines in the red box is the only thing I've done unique. It's my university course of nutrition in one sentence. Here's what it said. Eat at the proper time. A variety of natural, non-processed foods in quantities for ideal weight. That's just what you got to know. Everything else you ask about it explains why that sentence is true. Then I start with the cardiovascular disease that's killing more than the next 5 leading causes of death combined. Started with that, which we gave here the first night. Remember there's 7 risk factors? I list what they are. If you avoid those, you lower your risk of heart attack and first stroke, 80%. You lower your risk of diabetes, type 2 diabetes, 88%. So I list all that here. Then I talk about the fats, which ones you cut back on, saturated fat. And I talk about which ones you have to have, essential. Your body can't make it, and it's not in you got to get it in your diet, the linoleic acid and the alpha-linolenic acid. So I do that. So that's the first page. I have 6 pages like that. Now, I've been through a lot of that with you. Now, let's go to the second page. Here it is, cancer prevention. I've been over that with you. We just went through that. Avoid tobacco and alcohol. Avoid all those. Exercise has been shown to reduce the risk of 13 cancers. In the U.S., with the smoking, for adults going down, like we've done so well, overweight is now the biggest cancer risk factor we have, overweight. Meat and dairy products, calcium, are associated with increased prostate cancer risk. We're to avoid all processed meats, limit saturated fat to 5 to 6% of the calories. So I have all this discussing cancer. Then there's a section here, preventing obesity. How do you do that? Most women, if they stop eating between meals, will get their weight down. You just have to do one thing. Stop eating between meals. Eat only at the mealtime, no snacking. Avoid empty calorie foods that don't have any minerals or vitamins with them. Sugar, white flour, too much salt. Avoid foods high in saturated fat, such as meat and dairy fat, such as butter and cheese. Eat only 2 meals a day is a good way to keep your weight under control. 2 meals a day. Eat it before 2 o'clock. If you want to go by what Gary Fraser says, you'll raise that to 3. He says 3 o'clock. Exercise daily, 1 hour for kids, at least 30 to 60 minutes for adults. More countries now are making 1 hour exercise the recommendation for adults. Then the optimum diet, vegetarian diet. What's the main reason for that being the optimum diet? I have here longevity. 19.5% of men in the California population live to be 85 years of age or more. But for Adventist vegetarians, 46.8% did. Now, the women live longer than men. The average number that lives to be 85 or over for the general population and for women is 39.3%, but for Adventist vegetarian women, 60.1%. I give all the other reasons. Now, the reason we live longer, we don't have these diseases. That's why we live longer. Economics, you can get more nutrition for the dollar if you put your money into plant foods rather than animal foods. For short distance endurance, the high carbohydrate diet is the best. That's the vegetarian diet. Anyway, so that's kind of the second page. Now, let's go see what the third page looks like. Here it is. Iron. Iron deficiency is a major world problem. Iron is the most common mineral around in the world, but it's the one we're most deficient in. Now, there's two kinds of anemia. One kind of anemia is microcytic anemia. The cells are smaller. You're lacking iron, cells are smaller. The other, macrocytic, big cells, but not many cells. That's B12, folic acid deficiencies that does that, okay? Total vegetarians have to be concerned about B12 deficiency. They have to take, for sure, a B12 supplement. Otherwise, they're going to go into B12 deficiency. Overseas, can we teach this? Many countries, you can't find a pill with a B12 in it. So it's difficult to teach some of these things overseas, okay? Vitamin C foods, such as tomatoes and so on, will increase the absorption of iron 100%. So you should have that. But you should avoid the foods that are decreasing the absorption. Milk decreases it about 50%. Don't drink your milk if you want to get the value out of it. Don't drink the milk the same time you're getting want to get your iron, okay? We have different meals with the different kinds of food. And the beverages, the beverage recommended, best beverage there is water. And then they went and said, a committee, started a committee. I didn't think they had some good scientists on it. They said the next best thing is coffee. The lady who's all for milk, a dietitian, said that's not true. There's no evidence coffee is any good at all. I was lecturing at a public health university over in Czech Republic, Australia. And I was tipped off by the Adventist in the class that in this public health class there was a boy, friend of his, that was going to ask me about coffee. So I was prepared for the question. What about coffee? Harvard says don't ever recommend coffee because there's not enough evidence that it does any good. So don't recommend it. And the people who live the longest, who don't use it, recommend not using it, are total vegetarian Seventh-day Adventists. They're the ones who live the longest, and they don't use it. Everybody knows, all physicians know, that pregnant women should not have drugs. Coffee is a drug. All doctors are united that pregnant women shouldn't drink coffee, which is kind of interesting. So the best beverage is water. Now, vitamin D, what about that? Vitamin D is important. Sister White died in 1915. When did we learn about vitamins? Just about then. 1918, we learned the difference between A and D. We learned the difference between them. Vitamin D is important for kids. They get bow-legged. The wrist can get bigger here. You can get knobs where the cartilage and the rib bone meets. It gets knobbed there. You can feel the knobs. the head gets a little different shape. But as soon as a kid gets off its mother's back and gets off all those clothes and gets in the sunshine, it clears up. The sun clears it up. Okay? But vitamin D is important. And they're trying to say there's more heart attacks in people with limited vitamin D. Now, how do we get the vitamin D? Pills. How do you know if you need it? Blood test. We know that from Washington, D.C. and north, 50% of the people are deficient in vitamin D unless they're taking the pills. They think it might increase the cancer risk too. So they're saying everybody needs vitamin D. What about sugar? Did you know that the people are telling us that too much sugar increases heart attack also? Too much sugar. A woman is not supposed to get more than 6 teaspoons of sugar a day, and a man 9 teaspoons. That's what they're saying. Because it can cause trouble, even increasing heart attack, but it has to be at the high level to cause the heart attack. Fiber. We need fiber in our diet. How do we get people to get more fiber? Eat less of the foods that don't have any fiber. What foods don't have fiber? Is there any meat? Any fiber in meat? No, no fiber. It's fiber deficient food. Okay? Oil? Fiber? No. Milk? Fiber? Eggs? Fiber? Animal products don't have it. Where do you get it? From beans. Lentils. 1 cup of cooked lentils gives you 15 grams of fiber. How much should we have? We should probably have twice that, 30 grams. It's hard to get it. The diabetic maybe should have 3 times that much, okay, fiber. But we haven't been getting enough fiber. Now let's see if that's the second page. Now let's get to the next page. Too little or too much? Most everybody should know there's a principle of too little and too much. Exercise. You can get too little. You get too much. Causes the same problem as too little. People don't know that. There was this computer expert. He had never done a marathon. He decided he'd do one. He wanted to prepare for it. He was living one of the higher elevated apartments in New York City, high up. And he heard it was going to be hot that day. He read the news, it's going to be hot. So he drank a gallon before he went out there. And then he drank water every time they handed it to him. At 16 miles, he couldn't run any longer. He just started walking. He managed to finish. And he walked into the wellness tent, the health tent. And since he was able to walk, they thought he must be okay, so they said he's all right. So he went home. He wasn't feeling good, so he drank more water. And suddenly, he jumped up and crashed in coma. They airlifted him to a hospital. On the way, they were sure he was deficient in water, So they gave him saline on the way back to the hospital. They found he had too much water. That was his problem. Too much water lowers your blood sodium and it makes your brain kind of cramp up, the brain. It swells. He was out for 4 days before he came back to normal. By the way, he's not running marathons anymore. He decided he wouldn't do that anymore. But it's too little and too much. Too little water is bad. Too much is bad. Too little exercise is bad. Too much causes the same problems as too little. And they're finding there's less distance between those two stages. It's kind of interesting. They're trying to determine how much it is to be exact. And they don't have it quite figured out yet. Okay? When to eat? The recommendation now, you eat everything before 2 o'clock in the day. And if you go what Gary Fraser says, 3 o'clock. He thinks 2 o'clock is a little too strict. He says 3 o'clock, okay? When to eat. Mental health. Have you heard of ACEs? Adverse Children's Experiences? Kids who have these problems, there's about 10 of them. ACEs. Somebody in the family has been in jail. Somebody's mentally off in the family. There's about 10 of these. If you have these factors, if you have 6 of them, you might shorten your life 24 years. It's bad. So this is something we've got to think about, how to work with our young people in a way to make them resilient so they come back by having good people who will take them out, exercise them, and do what they should be doing with those kids. Salt. Too much salt. How much salt should we have? The recommendation is half a teaspoon. We're getting much more. We're getting over a teaspoonful now. But they say half a teaspoon. Nobody knows. We could make laws. Don't put so much salt in your bread. Oh, that's a good idea. Make the law say so. Pretty soon the bread doesn't taste very good. And they'll stop making it because nobody's buying it. So nothing really has worked to get people to lower their salt intake. So you know if you cut your salt way down, it does a lot of good. No chance for hypertension, heart attacks, all this kind of stuff. It's so good. But nobody's going to get that low. So they'll stop talking about it, even though they know it works. Protein and chronic kidney disease. Did you know 14 to 15% of Americans have chronic kidney disease and 90% do not know it? Why don't they know it? Because the doctor hasn't told them they have it. The doctor doesn't know yet until they're in the last stage with high creatinine level, high uric acid level or something. So he doesn't know it. People don't know that they're having the problem. And here are the physical fitness experts. You leave any physical fitness auditorium, you'll see these shelves of high protein foods. It's supposed to be so good for you. I've been talking to them. Don't do that. You're telling them to eat more protein when you don't know anything about their kidneys. They shouldn't be doing that. Okay? Protein. It's difficult not to get enough protein if you get enough calories to maintain your ideal weight. Most of us got too many calories. But if you get more calories than you need, that's a problem. But if you get too little, you might not get enough protein. That's the problem in nursing homes with lots of older people. They have no appetite. They don't want to eat. So they may not get enough protein. Exercise. For every 1 hour you exercise, you will live 3 hours longer. That's good news. But you got to get that first hour in. A lot of people haven't gotten that in yet. You got to get that first hour in. Okay. Exercise is extremely important. Smoking and vaping, stop them both. Stop them both. Okay, now next line. Calcium. I have one paper on pediatrics just to get this in. They're using this kind of study which shows you should take in as much calcium as you excrete. Balanced studies. You can get balanced at any level. My favorite teacher was a Mormon gentleman at Harvard there from Utah, but he was a good teacher. He went down to Kenya and he took the prisoners and did studies on them. He could balance them at all kinds of levels. Balanced studies are not to be used to determine how much you need of any nutrient, is what he told me in class. And of course, examination comes. I'm one of the few nutrition majors there, and the examiner puts questions on the board, then he walks out of the room. All the students who aren't nutritionists come and ask me, what's the answer to this question? They don't worry about exams over there. That's not how they grade people by. By the way, I got graded highly by the teachers. They grade you on how successful they think you're going to be. And then you get to be a member of this fancy society, and you get a little pin that costs you $14. Now, I was walking around with holes in my shoes. My wife was upset me, paying $14 for that pin when I didn't have good shoes to wear. But it's interesting how the teachers graded on what they thought you're going to do when you get out, how good you're going to be. It's just their impression. Diabetes prevention. How do you prevent diabetes? Keep your weight down. Be a vegetarian. You have 3 times more chance of diabetes if you're not a vegetarian. Vegetarian, keep your weight down, and exercise. That's to keep your weight down. Organic foods. How about that? We talked about that last time. Organic foods, HMO, no advantage health-wise, no disadvantage either. GMOs, I have it both listed here. Snacking. We try to feed kids early in school. Some of them we take out at 11 o'clock in the morning, start giving them something to eat. We need to teach snacking is not good. Lacto-ovo versus total vegetarian. The total vegetarian has to worry about the B12 deficiency, has to be sure to get B12 supplements, okay? Now, the last page here, mostly on children, breastfeeding. Breastfeeding is important. Remember I told you on cancer of the breast? If every woman had 10 children, and nursed them all, we could cut our breast cancer in half. But nobody likes that method. Breastfeeding is important, though. Iodine is important for the woman to get enough iodine to give to the nursing child. Iodine. Now, you may not know it, but the breast competes with the thyroid for iodine. Because you can get this elastic problem of your breast tissue with a lack of iodine, and children can get mentally deficient. I was talking to the head of the nutrition department of Ukraine years ago. They said, we're building a new hospital every year for the kids that are born mentally defective because of lack of iodine. Well, I said, why don't you get them to vote that salt should be iodine? They said, we've tried. We can't get them to do it. Well, then, why don't you bring it in from outside? We've tried. We got it in from Poland. They brought it in from Poland, but they didn't put the right kind of iodine in it. So it was dissipated by the time they got it. We have a committee at the United Nations that is working on this. It's better than it used to be. In Poland, quite a few of the women who were pregnant were deficient in iodine. It's about half as much as it used to be. So it's getting better, okay? Iodine is important, okay? Let's see. Keep your blood pressure down is important. Exercise is the best preventive. ACEs, the Adolescent Nutrition Problem, we need to put our money into there to help kids with good people to help them to exercise, live a better way. Alzheimer's disease, same thing as a heart attack, as far as we know. Same kinds of risk factors for Alzheimer's disease. We have at Loma Linda now a couple from Afghanistan. They're Caucasians, and they're specialists in Alzheimer's disease. We wanted to have a committee do a study to see if Adventists have less Alzheimer's disease. Because if the heart disease and Alzheimer is same risk factors, we should have less Alzheimer because we have less heart disease. There are 2 small studies which show we do have less. But they're small studies. We should have some large studies to show this. Now, are there any questions anybody has about any of this we've been going over? I hope that this is going to do somebody some good someday. I tried to put it in the Loma Linda bookstore where they get faculty members to put their writings in there. But there are very few world guidelines on nutrition that are vegetarian. So I think this has an advantage that way. Any other questions? You're our moderator.
What's that? Are those available?
They aren't available. You know, when I first did these, they were $3.50 a piece. Now they're $7 or $8. But if you just copy it from my computer and go, it costs you about 80 cents a color page, 6 pages, $4.80 you can get one for. But I think it'd be good for people to have this. It gives you what you need to know.
He's happy to share an electronic copy of it. You don't have to print it. You just have it on your computer that you can look at it. He's happy to share that at no cost. He's not trying to make money here. So maybe I'll get a copy of it. You'll email it to me or something.
Yeah.
And then I'm happy to share it with anyone here that...
It'd be a good idea because people can copy it on their flash drive and go to the printer and have them printed colored and be 80 cents probably a page.
Mm-hmm. I was going to recap something about vitamin D. It's interesting, early on with all the COVID deaths, when they did the autopsies, not a single person that had died had every single person that died did not have enough vitamin D. Every single one was deficient.
Well,
they didn't find a single person for a long time that had good
but
levels of vitamin D.
Of course, today, everybody's dying, men, from prostate cancer.
And that's too much vitamin D.
But it doesn't say it caused it.
Okay.
It didn't cause the death. But they have it when they die.
But most people in the world are deficient in vitamin D. I know in Australia, you were in Australia. In Australia, there's bright sun, a lot. But they have such a campaign against the sun. Slip, slap, slop, slide, slip on some clue, slip, slap on some more stuff, slide, slip, slap, anyway, slide on the sunglasses. So basically they're so covered up and slathered up with the sunscreen or clothing or everything that they don't get enough sunshine. And so most Australians are very deficient in vitamin D. And so the government's wrestling with how much sun should people actually have, because
Sister White knew nothing about vitamin D. But she said, I want to get all the sunshine I can get.
yeah.
Which is kind of interesting. Now, I was out there with Marcus in Australia, and I did a study on the Adventist church members. Most of them exercise before they go to work. They exercise before they go to work, go out surfing.
Yeah. Because they say don't be in the sun between like 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock. In the heat of the day when the sun's most direct there, they say don't be in. So a lot of them do the exercise early in the morning when it's just daybreak and the sun rays aren't, the UV is not as strong, or in the evening, but morning.
In this country, we don't see that. But over there, I saw them. 60% of them did their exercise before work.
Yeah. And they have their longevity in Australia is quite high too.
Yeah.
Because of the exercise factor. But so this time of year, it's a little nippy to get outside and do your morning walk or jog or whatever you're doing. Or if you work out in a gym, I guess it stays temperate year-round, but it's good to be getting your exercise in and getting your vitamin D. If you're exercising outside, you're going to get it as long as you're not too lathered up.
But it's hard to get anybody to do anything we talk about.
It's easy to know the theory up here and then to actually choose to do those things. I mean, you see that cookie in between meals and it looks so good you want to grab it and eat it, but you just have to say, I'm going to save. I'll wait until mealtime. I was raised with no snacking because this is my mom's dad. So we never snacked. Ellen White says
his mom was my daughter.
Yes. So I mean, there's a statement Ellen White says, not a morsel should enter your lips between meals. And I was taught that as a kid. Not a morsel. Ooh. So we lived like that. I mean, I have snacked a few times in my life, but it's very rare. And so if you train your body, that's what you do. You're not even hungry. In between meals, you're not hungry. That's one bad thing about Australia. They have a morning tea and then an afternoon tea. So they have like breakfast, then a morning tea, then lunch, then an afternoon tea, then an evening meal. So they have all these meals. Even the kids at school, they have breaks twice in school for kids to have morning tea and afternoon tea plus lunch. So kids are eating all day long. That's not healthy. That's not great. But you can train your stomach. Like he said, I'm working on training my stomach to not have evening meals. It's not quite there yet, but if your body can be trained, your body doesn't put all the hunger pains out there when you're not used to eating.
Now tomorrow, I want to tell you about Cyrus. The story of Isaiah, his reference to Cyrus. Bibi Netanyahu called Trump Cyrus. Cyrus, let the people go back and rebuild the temple. Cyrus, in our thinking, is an example of Jesus. He represents Jesus. And here, Netanyahu called Trump Cyrus. So that was kind of interesting. But I want to give you the story of how Media Persia got together. Be called one country. It's a tremendous story. And then I'm also going to hand you out my little write-up on perfection to show you what it's like. It's not sinless. A lot of people think it's sinless.
There's not to be scared of, I can assure you that. And the Cyrus story, he shared it the first time he came to Australia, he shared that story, and I didn't know that story. Ever since then, when I study Daniel with people, I study prophecy, I take a little detour and take him through that story. It's a really, really awesome story. You don't want to miss that tomorrow night. So thank you all for coming out tonight, for coming out in the cold and the dark. And tomorrow night we'll do Cyrus, and then we'll finish up on Sabbath. So
now, even though we haven't had many here, we're having people online.
yes.
And we may have 10 households. We don't know how many in the house. So there are quite a few people still listening.
So, which is nice. All right. Thank you all for coming. You have a great night. God bless you, and look forward to seeing you tomorrow night.